Hi everybody, this is Ibarionex from the Candid Frame. I just got back from Miami, Florida, where I attended the Miami Street Photography Festival. And they had an amazing exhibition of work there from photographers from all over the world. And it was amazingly consistent in terms of the quality of the work there. But one of my big takeaways from the exhibit and from my entire time at the Miami Street Photography Festival was was examples of photographers that were challenging the way that I see the world and how I make photographs. Because one of the things I always want to do when I'm taking a look at other people's work is I want to be inspired not just to go out and make quote unquote great photographs, but to create photographs that I wouldn't have created a week before, or a month before, or a year before. And so, in looking through the images in our Flickr group this week, I thought that I would choose images that serve to remind me that I can take pictures in ways that I might not immediately think of taking pictures. So it all makes sense when we take a look at the pictures. So let's get started. All right, here we have a shot by Subhadeep Mondal. We don't have any XF information here. So here we have a scene that's really great in terms of color contrast, shape, and line. There are multiple sort of planes of interest and focus here in this shot, all of which that make for a really, really nice photograph. But when I think about this scene, I almost immediately think about how I tend to gravitate to want to isolate certain elements within the frame. And as you can see here, there are just an abundance of different kinds of photographs in this scene. We have this scene with this man and this boy here. We have this woman in the doorway. We have these people here in this entryway. We have the color contrast of these doors against the blue here. We have these windows. We have these flags. And one of the things that I tend to do is I try to be kind of a minimalist. I will take a look at all of this stuff normally, and then I will just sort of segment it into separate photographs, which is not a bad thing to do. Oftentimes it's led me to make very, very interesting, very strong photographs as a result. But what this image inspires me to do is to take a look at it in terms of how this photographer, instead of breaking it down into more basic elements, instead of creating abstractions, rather takes on the challenge of taking all these different elements and trying to make them work together, which I think he does pretty nicely. This is a challenge as a photographer because you have so many elements, and the difficulty is trying to find a way of sort of balancing things out. I don't think he's 100% successful in the shot. I would have liked to have a little more breathing room here at the bottom of the frame where the feet are almost cut off in the frame. We have these doors here, which I would love to have seen a little more of the street here in this scene, just to give it a little more breathing room. I love what's happening here along the edges of the frame. Here, I just want a little more at the bottom here. I know it probably would have introduced a little more negative space here within the frame, but maybe shifting the camera over to the right would have improved the overall shot. But when you think about what makes this image work, there's the repetition of line and shape that persists everywhere. We have these horizontals, we have these verticals, we have these rectangles that pervade the entire shot. You have the wonderful color contrast between warm and cool. There's so much to love here, but it's the challenge of, can you make all those elements work for you? And for me, it's sometimes so difficult to figure out how to make it work. I'll fall back on old ways of seeing, old ways of approaching a scene that I know will work for me. But if I don't challenge myself, if I don't push myself to try to make scenes as complex as this work, I'm not going to be creating new images. I'm not going to be creating any surprises for myself as a photographer. So I really commend the photographer here for taking on that challenge and making a pretty pleasing photograph. Here we have a shot by Teresa. No XF information on this shot here. So here Chris is traveling on a boat, and he's shooting this from the interior of the boat that is tented basically to provide some shade from the sun. And he creates a really interesting image with these two silhouetted figures. We have the bow of the boat in the foreground. We have other boats in the distance. You have this great gesture of this guy holding this cane. And then this other guy here holding something which appears to be smoking and maybe a pipe. I'm not exactly sure. But when I see this shot, what I like about the shot is the fact that it's so intimate, that he's really not only close to this figure in the foreground, but he's in the space. So much of what we see in street photography is people photographing other people, other moments from a distance. There's a disconnect. There is no intimacy in the photographs beyond what intimacy may be captured between two people that are interacting or reacting to each other in the street. There's always this separation between the photographer and the moment. And I don't get that feeling here because Chris is part of the story. He is part of the moment because of his proximity to the subjects and the fact that he's in the space. And that's another of the challenges that I try to make for myself is how can I be in the moment and create pictures that don't result in me feeling that I'm separate from the scene, that I'm some sort of fly on the wall, an observer that's not participating in what's happening and documenting it. And again, that is a challenge for me because how do I find my way into it? And, this is the kind of shot that you can't take without the people who are photographed being aware of it. And I know that this is a major issue of contention for a lot of street photographers is not becoming involved with your subject, that somehow street photography is more ideal if you are the fly on the wall, if you have this distance. But I think there are some times when you have to sort of declare your presence there in order to make images that are that much more intimate, that have more of a connection to them than is provided them when you're just shooting, 10 feet away or 12 feet away or 15 feet away and are not there and not in the moment. You want to feel like you are in the midst of things. And I think that this image succeeds in doing that. But it also presents to me the challenge of summoning up a little more courage to, maybe introduce myself to the people, to create a situation where I can be a part of the moment and create shots that have something a little more special, that add something a little more special to the image. Okay, here we have a shot by Suresh Naganthan. This was made with the Fuji X100S, 200th of a second, f4, ISO 4000. Now, this image is really lovely because of the way he uses the light that is being emitted by these balls and creates these silhouettes of these children that are playing with them. And I think it's a marvelous shot because it's so much about the play of hands, the color play, the lines, the shapes, all the things that I love seeing in a photograph. But this is a shot which I assume was shot at night because the source of illumination seems to be only the globes. It may have been an interior scene, but I suspect that this was an outdoor scene shot at night, hence why the illumination from the balls plays such a prominent role in the photographs. And I've said this before, but one of the things that I don't do a lot of is photograph at night. And I think that it's something that I really have to get over because I'm often thinking about going out and photographing in the early morning, the middle of the day, the late afternoon, and don't go out, at night for a variety of different reasons. One of them is the fact that I know it's such a challenge just because the source of illumination usually is a lot weaker than the sun, and as a result, it provides its own technical challenges. But despite that, you can find opportunities to create images where these artificial light sources that normally would be problematic for a photographer are the material by which you make images that you would never ever be able to make in the daylight. This image is just that. I mean, if this image was made during the middle of the day with sunlight in abundance, you would not see the scene in the very same way. The illumination on these colored balls would be as a result of the light hitting it and reflecting back off of it, and would create a completely different feel. And that same illumination would evenly illuminate all the kids, revealing them in much more pronounced detail. But in the way that this shot is photographed, you don't see the details of the children's faces. You just see their lines and their forms illuminated by the interior lights created by these balls, and the feel and the overall look of the image is completely different. And it's exciting to me because I look at this picture and I go, I don't see this all the time. If you go through our Flickr pool, you see a large number of images that look pretty much the same. People walking down the street, people walking in front of a billboard, people whose images are caught in reflection. A lot of this stuff is the same common motif of street photography. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't make those photographs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying in this video and with the images that I've chosen here is that there are other images to be had. And one of the important things to do as you look through the images in the Flickr pool, I want you to look for photographs that inspire you to see and to shoot differently. Because I think that's part of the excitement to be had from the pictures that people are submitting to the Flickr pool. If you're looking at these pictures and they look just like the pictures you're always making, where's the challenge? Where's the excitement in that? When you see some of these pictures, I'm hoping, at least for myself, that the next time I go out, I'll be reminded that there are pictures that I can make that I've not made before. And that if I push myself, if I really take myself in that direction, I might surprise myself and make a picture that really excites me and that makes me remember that feeling of discovery that can be had when I pick up a camera. I hope that was helpful to you and inspires you the next time you go out and shoot. If you're not familiar with the Candid Frame is a podcast in which I interview photographers about their work and their career. We're nearing 400 episodes, and the most recent conversation we had was with Colin Westerbeck, who you may know as the co-author of the book Bystander, A History of Street Photography. It is a great book, which was re-released around 25 years after its initial release. It's a book that has been out of print for a long time, and if you tried to purchase it used, you're oftentimes paying a couple of $100. But thankfully, the book has been re-released, updated, with some new text and some new photographers, and it's really, really a great book if you have any passion for photography. I interviewed Colin a couple of weeks ago about the release of the new book, and if you're listening to this YouTube channel, you obviously have a passion for street photography, so I recommend you not only listen to the episode, but also purchase the book. We'll have a link in the show notes for you to be able to do just that. So thanks again for joining me, and if you really like the content of these videos, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.